Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today I wanted to go ahead and start something a little bit different on this channel. Of course, I'm going to continue doing exactly the same kind of content that I've been doing, but you know, answering questions that a lot of you have in the comment section is a really big deal to me, and I want to make sure that I answer those each question to the best of my ability and to your liking. But one thing is that I really want to be able to answer those questions in a way that other people that may have the same exact question or a similar question can also hear my response and not have to go through you know, all the comment section and all of that. So instead of just answering them in the comment section, what I would like to start doing is actually doing videos about a lot of these questions that you have, as long as it's something that I can touch up on and actually have an answer for. I would like to do it in that format on some of these. And today we've got a question from John, and this is a really good question because you know, I've been known over the last several years to kind of be a face for the, you know, the electronics on bass boats through my partnership with BassportElectronics.com, and even my nickname Sonar kind of plays to that category of tools that we have at our disposal in fishing. But his question is, are the 3 displays at the front of the boat so you don't have to switch between modes on the unit and keep 3 up at the same time? I'm getting back into fishing from the 90s, and it's confusing me how far electronics have changed, and now trying to rig my own bass boat to current standards. Feels odd for my recreation that puts me out in nature having more electronics and monitors than my office. This is a great question, and also a really good sentiment, you know, that I think a lot of people are battling with nowadays. You know, as we get these increasing you know, technological advances in the fishing industry with our electronics, our trolling motors, and all of these different things, you know, I think it's something that we all have to be cognizant of. You know, as a professional tournament angler, somebody who's supposed to maximize their success to be able to cash checks and compete against other anglers that are also trying to do the same thing, electronics are a really important part of that process for me. So I see it from my perspective from a tournament competition standpoint, and so I know that from my perspective, I have to do everything that I can and utilize every single tool at my disposal to be able to compete out there on the water against all these other guys that are so talented, but are also very savvy as far as the electronics that are available and the technology that is at our disposal nowadays. So from a competitive standpoint, I think it is very important to stay up to date with all of this technology and to utilize these tools, and I don't think that there's anything wrong with that personally. I think that the sport is always evolving, and you have to be able to be willing to evolve with the sport and to utilize whatever tools that you can at your disposal. And remember that as things advance, there are tools that may actually be very valuable for some people and detract from other people as well. You know, it may actually put you in a position where you're in somebody else's wheelhouse and it starts working against what your core strengths are. So you've got to kind of balance that. But let's get back to the specific question at hand, the beginning of that question from John. The reason for the 3 units on the bow of my boat, on my Phoenix, I've got 3 different units. I've got a Garmin unit, a Lowrance unit, and a Humminbird. And then at my console, I'll also mention I've got a Humminbird and I've got a Lowrance. The reason why you hit it right on the head as far as one of the benefits of having 3 units on the front, and why that has really changed over the last, you know, 5, 6, 7, 8 years. It definitely has a lot to do with the fact that you can keep each screen, especially on the bow, keep each screen on a set screen, so you don't have to switch between those different modes. modes, just as you mentioned. But one thing that has happened since you were fishing in the 90s, one thing that has happened is there's been kind of this revolution in the electronics market, where people used to just, if they were going with a certain brand, say Lowrance or Humminbird, even back then, you could add an Eagle depth finders. Those were an older brand, and when you went with one of those brands, you were just dead set on having continuity from the bow to the console. You would stick with that one brand. You rarely saw somebody mix a Lowrance unit with a Humminbird. It just wasn't done that often. Sometimes people would piece it together, but it would be less functionality, more because they got a deal on one unit versus another. And so it was more of a budget function of a budgetary decision. So nowadays, what has started to happen with the advent of all these different types of great technologies, such as side imaging back in the 2007 era, when Humminbird came out with that, everybody started coming out with side imaging. There wasn't a whole lot of a monopoly on that after the first like 4 or 5 years. But then Humminbird came out with 360, okay, and that is something that to this day they pretty much still have a monopoly on. Obviously, other companies are trying to break into that 360 market, and I'm sure that that's going to happen pretty soon. And then Garmin ended up coming out with this forward-facing sonar technology, and what that ended up doing was it made that a whole other piece of technology that people wanted on their boat, but that was only limited for a certain amount of time to Garmin. And now everybody has some form of forward-facing sonar. Lowrance has theirs, Humminbird has theirs. But what you see is that you see these different brands having certain sonar technologies, certain edges over other brands. So nowadays, a lot of anglers, especially tournament anglers, are piecing together their whole system out of the different brands. So for instance, on my boat, we've kind of perfected our what we call the ultimate electronic system, with my friend Jason at BassportElectronics.com. He helped me design this, and we've tried a lot of different brands and graphs and different types of technology up there, but we keep on coming back to this exact model. And the front graph is a Garmin. I just feel like I understand and I really trust the Panoptix live scope that they have, especially with that new LVS 34 transducer. So I choose Garmin for forward-facing sonar, and that's the Garmin unit on the bow. And then we've got the Humminbird unit. Still, 360 really has not been brought to the table in any meaningful way from any of the other brands other than Humminbird. And 360 is such a valuable tool, especially when you're trying to break down large areas of structure, or follow grass line, or find irregularities in grass lines or something like that. 360 is still super valuable. So I have a Humminbird unit dedicated just to 360 on the bow. And then you have the Lowrance unit, which is just for mapping and 2D sonar on the bow, and it's for my my waypoint management, my tracks, and things like that. And that is linked with the Lowrance unit at my console. So yes, it has a lot to do with keeping a certain mode on each screen, so I don't have to keep on changing screens. If you had one unit up there, you would have to keep changing screens for each mode, and it would be highly ineffective, and it would just be a pain, and it would just be a waste of time. But it's more than that. It's more of choosing what technology I prefer from each brand and utilizing it in that 3-graph system up on the bow. However, again, I want to kind of reiterate the fact that a recreational angler shouldn't have to buy all of these different types of technologies. What you need to do, as a professional fisherman, I have to fish a bunch bunch of different types of lakes, a bunch of different regions, and I need all that technology that I can get to be able to use under certain circumstances. There's a lot of times where I don't even need electronics to catch fish. You know, if I go out to Okeechobee, a lot of times I'm taking off transducers so I don't catch grass, and I've even used a push pole the last time I was down at Okeechobee, so I didn't even use my trolling motor a lot for that one. So I may not need all the technology for every single outing, but being a tour level angler, a tournament angler, I need all the tools at my disposal when I do need them, because there's a lot of different situations. But as a weekend angler, somebody who's just going out there and having fun, I don't think that you need to go out there and burden yourself financially by buying all of the different technology. What you need to do, and a company like BassportElectronics.com can really help you break this down and figure out what technologies are going to help you in your fishing endeavors the most. But you can choose, you can kind of figure out what type of fisheries you're going to be fishing, and then figure out what type of technologies are going to enhance your fishing. Sometimes, for instance, you know, forward-facing sonar isn't going to be my first choice for going down to Florida and fishing Okeechobee or the Kissimmee chain. Mostly just going to be using, you know, a 2D sonar just to find the bottom, you know, and also for temperature readings and things like that. Maybe use 360 if I start getting really intense trying to find grass lines and irregularities in grass and things like that. But again, you know, as a recreational angler, just find the technologies that are going to help you catch fish in your fishing situation. Don't burden yourself with trying to get all of these different technologies right off the bat, unless you have the money and you want the best, and you do want to travel around the country and try to, you know, catch up with the modern technology. And one thing that I think that a lot of people forget is the fact that the fish are evolving with this technology. As we start utilizing forward-facing sonar and 360 more, I'm already seeing this trend where the fish offshore are getting harder and harder to catch, and the bank fishermen are starting to catch more and more. So I don't think the advent of electronics is a bad thing. In fact, I know it's not a bad thing. I think it's good for everybody, but you don't have to necessarily adopt that electronics. You can essentially just fish the way you've always fished. Keep it simple. I think that is a great approach. It's, you know, this sport is just meant to allow you to get in the outdoors, keep things simple, and kind of revert back to your childhood memories of getting out there in a rowboat or a canoe or something like that, or just off the bank and catch some fish. Like I've said many times in this video in different ways, you don't need technology to be successful and to have a good time on the water. However, if you do want to kind of learn more about the technology and adopt this new great technology such as forward-facing sonar, the best resource, in my opinion, is BassportElectronics.com. My buddy Jason over there, he is awesome, one of the wizards in the electronics category, and he will definitely be able to help you find the right system for your situation and cut out all the fat. He's not trying to sell you a bill of goods. He's trying to make sure that you are happy with the system that you need to catch fish. So go check out BassportElectronics.com. Jason will help you. He's awesome. Anyways, John, that was probably way more information than you wanted to hear, but I just want to say welcome back to the sport. I know that you're gonna have a lot of time to adjust to the new technologies out there, but if you have any questions, of course, come back to SonarFishing and I will try to answer them to the best of my ability. But just get out there, have a good time. That's what the sport of fishing is all about. So if anybody else has any questions, I will try to do videos just like this, like I did for John. Thank you guys very much for watching. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. I'm going to see you out on the water. Take care.